What's happening, everybody? JayShockblast here, and man, oh man, I just got back from seeing Spider-Man Homecoming, and let me tell you, what a fantastic movie. A great way to kick off the new era of Spider-Man movies, and I think you are all going to agree once you see it. Tom Holland is already the best Spider-Man of all time. That's right, I'm already ready to put him ahead of Andrew Garfield and ahead of Tobey Maguire and ahead of anybody else that came along the way. I just think we saw it in Captain America Civil War, that small little tease, and I think people were already ready to give that proclamation then. This movie is charming, it's fun, it's just everything that you would expect Peter Parker to be, we get from Tom Holland in this movie, and that's the biggest reason I loved it so much. And you know, there's definitely a lot to be said about the story that was told, and the way it was told, and the way that we didn't have to go through seeing an origin story all over again for like the 18 millionth time. I like the fact that they just assumed everybody knew exactly who Spider-Man was and just rolled with it. So great job there, and I think if you're a Spider-Man fan, you're going to probably love this movie across the board. Now, I'm going to go ahead and say from the start, I'm giving it an 8.5 out of 10. It's a really good movie, and one of the better comic book movies I think that we've seen in quite a while, and it's tough for it to compete this year, though, because there's so many great ones. I rank it just behind Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, and just behind Wonder Woman, both of which I gave a 9 out of 10. I feel like some of the action sequences and visual effects and stuff like that were just a little bit better in those movies, and I had less issues with some of the casting choices. There were some kind of things that really rubbed me the wrong way in this movie, but they got most of it right, and for that I'm really, really happy. So I don't want to sit here and rehash the whole story. What I am going to say is that there are obviously going to be spoilers, so I warned you in the description and in the title that there are going to be spoilers. It's probably better that if you haven't seen the movie yet, you wait to see the movie and then come back and watch my review and leave me something in the comments below, possibly even talking about what your order is for favorite Spider-Man movies when it comes to the big six. So I don't really know where I want to rank mine, but I know that this is going to be somewhere towards the top. I actually liked both Amazing Spider-Man movies with Andrew Garfield. I thought he did a pretty good job, and I liked the Sam Raimi trilogy as well. So I really don't know where I rank this yet, but it is definitely probably one of the top two. But I think I just really love the way they set the movie up. They start the movie off with kind of Peter Parker's own self-homemade movie of all the events that led up to his stint with the Avengers at that airport in Germany. And we see all the kind of behind-the-scenes stuff. We see him as a very impressionable kid. We see a lot of interaction with Happy Hogan and a couple interactions with Tony Stark. And we see, what happens when Ant-Man grows and when he gets that call from Iron Man, Underoos, and he jumps in, everything, it's just so charming, and I love the way they started the movie. I also love the way they introduced the villains of the movie. We see the way that, Adrian Toomes as the Vulture, Michael Keaton's character, kind of falls into crime. He starts legitimately with a crew with his construction company after the Chitauri attack of New York City in Avengers. His crew, he invests all of his money into a construction company that's basically tearing down and hauling away all the debris and destruction, and they lose their jobs essentially because damage control rolls in and takes over. So you see right from the start how his path to crime began, and you kind of feel a little sympathy towards him because he was just trying to make his money legitimately, and instead, because they were in kind of fight or flight mode, they had to figure out a way to make their money, and they had all this tech left over. We are introduced to Phineas Mason as the Tinkerer, and they start making weapons, and that is the gist of how everything happens for, you know, the Vulture, this modernized Vulture, and of course Shocker. So the whole plot of the story is that, you know, Peter Parker, we see the famous scene where he's learning to be a superhero. So, you know, we're not getting Spider-Man as a trained stesuperhero, you know, friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. We are seeing a kid coming of age. We are seeing him, you know, chase down bike, you know, stealers. You know, we're seeing him make mistakes, lots of mistakes, and just kind of learning to be Spider-Man. He happens across a bank robbery. We've seen it in the trailers where they're all wearing masks as if they are Avengers. And that's where he kind of discovers the tech. And in typical, you know, this point in his life Spider-Man fashion, he kind of stops the robbery, but not before, you know, blowing practically half the block up, including his favorite bodega. And that's where the chase after the weapons goes, and that's kind of like the central point of the story, is he's after trying to figure out who's making these weapons and where they're coming from, and trying to stop it. And he's also doing all this while trying to impress Happy Hogan, who mostly ignores him and doesn't take him seriously, and of course Iron Man, who again also doesn't take him that seriously either. He has his suit from Tony Stark, and there's a lot of cool things about it that he doesn't even know about. Him learning to interact with the suit is also very interesting. So there's just really a lot of great stuff that goes on along the way. We also see Peter Parker as a high school student. You know, we see him learning how to interact with his friends, and we meet Ned, who is, you know, really fun and interesting, and, you know, his confidant, his guy at the computer or something like that. And, you know, you meet Michelle and Liz, who, you know, there's a plot twist with her. You meet all these characters, and he's trying to juggle being Spider-Man and being Peter Parker. So I think that's really a charming part of the movie as well. The casting is weird. Like, I can't help but watch the movie and feel like they just had a diversity checklist and they had to check everybody off. And I think that's the worst way to do it. I want everything to feel natural. You know, it should just be natural. I think there's two kind of contrasting versions of characters that one they kind of did right and one they did massively wrong. And for those, I would point out Bokeem Woodbine as Herman Schultz, aka Shocker number 2, and who played Tony Revolori, who played Flash. It just says Flash. They never say Thompson, obviously, because he does not look like a Flash Thompson. So when I saw everything, I kind of was weirded out by the fact that Herman Schultz, a very German or Jewish name, if you will, was being played by Bokeem Woodbine. And I feel like the way they made that change was actually perfect. It actually made a lot of sense, and it was actually well executed. There's a falling out between Shocker number 1, the originator of Shocker, who has the Shocker gauntlet, which does more of like, it's not really, I don't know, it's pretty fitting. It's a modernization. And there's a falling out with Adrian Toomes, the Vulture, and the Vulture accidentally vaporizes him, and he picks up the gauntlet and tosses it to Herman Schultz and says, well, I guess you're the Shocker now. And it really made sense that they kind of passed it that way. Like, whatever, it's a name. It's certainly not the only name that has like a German connotation or that has more of a European flair to it that is owned by somebody that's not, you know. So I can live with that, and I actually thought that was a really ingenious way to kind of, you know, make it work. With Flash, though, it's a different kind of Flash, okay? So Flash Thompson in the comics is your typical meathead jock white dude football player, you know? Like, that's his shtick. And, you know, could they have made it work with somebody that wasn't white? Sure. They could have made him a number of things. But what they did in this is they made him just a millionaire spoiled brat. The son of a very rich father that is spoiled, and he's somewhat of a bully, but it's not because he's believable as a bully. He's just a dink that has a lot of money and a lot of fast cars, and he's a DJ and all these like stupid things. And I really hated his portrayal as Flash. Like I get where they're coming from in calling him Flash because he's more flashy, but it's stupid. It's not the right character to do it with. I would have been fine if they had a character like that, and it's not even a representative necessarily that he is Flash Thompson, because they just call him Flash throughout the movie. But like, I just didn't really think that one made sense. And I again, if you can make everything make sense, I can live with it. I can be fine with it. I understand it. I understand that a lot of these characters were created, during a whitewashed era, and that's fine. I understand we have to modernize everything. But I like it to feel natural. And, Bokeem Woodbine being explained as Shocker felt natural. It didn't feel forced. It felt organic, and I liked the way that they did that. Versus Flash, and I feel like everybody that watches the movie is going to feel the same way, because, Flash Thompson is a very huge character in the Spider-Man mythos, and he eventually becomes Agent Venom. So, I mean, that's just me, but that's hardly the only thing that I feel like they got wrong. Aunt May has never made sense to me as Marissa Tomei. I don't think she's awful as Aunt May, but Aunt May has always been portrayed as a much older, elderly woman. Now, I understand Marissa Tomei is not quote-unquote young anymore. She's not like, who she was when she first popped out onto the scene. She's 53 now, but she does not look 53, and it's weird seeing everybody hit on Aunt May. It's weird seeing Tony Stark hitting on Aunt May. Like, all of that is weird to me. It doesn't make sense. But the most egregious sin I think they committed is at the last scene of the movie. So, in the last scene of the movie, Tony, obviously you see it in the trailer, Tony takes away the new suit. That's why he had to go back to his homemade suit. And Tony's finally given it back to him. He's turned down being an Avenger, which is perfect. Again, love that part of the movie. He's chasing being an Avenger the whole movie, and then he finally has his chance. They have what essentially looks like it could be the Iron Spider costume, which you're gonna like totally go gaga over. Like when Tony Stark shows him his new suit, it looked sick, and I would love to see that suit in a lot of different forms of video game. But that portrayal was great. When he gets home from all of this, he finds his old suit sitting there for him. Like the original suit that Tony Stark gave him is waiting for him on his bed. So he puts it on and he puts the mask on, then you see him take the mask back off. And as he does it, he looks out from his open bedroom door, and Aunt May walks in, and you hear, "What the f?" as the scene ends, and we go to the credits. So here's the thing. I hate the fact that everybody knows already that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. Ned knows it. Adrian Toomes knows it. Obviously, Peter Parker and Happy Hogan know it. They never knew back in the day. Throughout the comics up until Civil War, nobody ever knew. Like, it was so rare for people to know that Peter Parker was Spider-Man. And here we are, we have everybody already knowing that he's Spider-Man. And Aunt May, for me, was the clincher, because I'm not going to sit here and pretend I know every inch of history of Spider-Man, but traditionally, Aunt May has always at least feigned ignorance and never really known who Spider-Man was, that Peter was Spider-Man. Whether she was pretending or what, there's always been this expectation that nobody knew that he was or that she didn't know that he was Spider-Man. And now, right from the start, in movie number 1, she very clearly knows that he's Spider-Man. And I don't love that. It actually doesn't make a ton of sense to me. And I kind of wish that they didn't really do it that way. But, I mean, I guess we'll have to wait for movie number 2 to see how that goes. But I really feel like the action wasn't there through the whole movie the way that I would have liked to have seen it. There's a lot of investigative work, a lot of goofiness, which is fine. I feel like they filled the lulls a little bit better than Wonder Woman and Guardians of the Galaxy did. Like, I feel like in both of those movies, there's like a 15 to 20 minute chunk of the movie where you're kind of like, all right, come on, can we just get on with it? And I don't necessarily feel like that's the case throughout this movie, and that's much to its benefit. I feel like everything that they do is deliberate and interesting, and I really feel like everything played out really well. I feel like Michael Keaton as the Vulture is one of the best Spider-Man villains we've ever seen. He was great. I loved him as the Vulture. I love the modernized Vulture. It all really works well and makes a lot of sense, and I think that's the most that you can ask for. I feel like there's a lot of charm to the movie. I think, setting up Scorpion for being one of the villains in the next movie is really good. So there's really some great stuff there, and I'm really looking forward to seeing where they go with it. I'm hoping in the next movie that we can see them kind of skip ahead a little bit, and Peter can be a little bit better at the job. I guess I get that there's a possibility that the whole point of the Homecoming series is going to show him constantly as a high schooler, and I guess that's fine, but I don't necessarily want that. I would actually really love to see, especially as Tom Holland gets a little bit older, him evolve into the college student and, the older Peter Parker. So he's 15 in this movie, allegedly. I mean, obviously, I think he's 20 or 21 in real life, but Peter Parker is 15 in this movie. So it'll be interesting to see where they go from here. I think that it was a great movie. It's a great way to kick things off. I really would have loved it if there was just those couple little subtle things, like if you're gonna force Flash Thompson into the movie, or Flash, I don't think that was the way to do it. I especially did not like, even though like the Aunt May Peter scene at the end is hysterical and you're gonna die laughing when you see it, I just didn't think it was the right move this early. I don't know how that works, with her always knowing that he's Spider-Man, confirmed and basically confronting him with it. I just don't think that was the right move, but we'll see. What did you guys think of the movie? I thought it was good. I thought they really did a good job of modernizing some of these characters. There's a part of me that kind of wishes that they were a little more in costume, especially Shocker. I wish he kind of had a mask, but I think they did it pretty well. It's just, they did seem like kind of just regular people though. And I think that, I get that that's just where they're going with it, but I don't know. It just seems like, it didn't seem as superhero-y because of that, but I digress. So anyway, I'd love to know what you guys think. That's basically a nice little synopsis, and I think you're going to love it though. I know I seem to focus on some of the negatives sometimes, but I feel like that's the best way to kind of say, hey, everything else is great, I don't want to retell the whole story, but a lot of the action scenes were really good, but because they were kind of night scenes, it made it a little bit tougher to kind of have that great visual effect the way that Guardians of the Galaxy was able to do. So but let's go ahead and talk about this. Feel free to rank your Spider-Man movies in order. Again, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and we'll see you.